Tonight we're going to talk about political developments in Rome in the Mediterranean. Today in class we compared the politics of Rome with Greece, so keep what we did today in mind as you watch this. So timing for classical Rome. In the 8th century BC, which is 700s, Rome was a kingdom or a monarchy which had a king in charge, so one leader. And the founding myth is a story of Romulus and Remus, two brothers who were born of a wolf mother, so again, not fully human. And they decide to found the city of Rome. However, they don't quite get along, and in order to get power, Romulus kills his brother Remus. And so this founding myth, it's very violent, sets the tone for Rome's future, which ends up being a very violent future. In 509 BC, the Republic is founded. It's a small city-state at the time, so a republic, again, is a group of leaders who make decisions for their people. And at the time that the Republic is founded, it's a very small city-state. So it's not the entire size of Italy. It doesn't take the whole peninsula. Instead, it's just a small, almost like a town. In 27 BC, the Roman Empire starts. So the Republic is taken over by a dictator. And so we have an emperor. And the ending date of the empire gets a little more complicated. In the back here, you see also the Roman Colosseum. So that should be a building you recognize where the Romans held their gladiatorial games. Sometimes animals would fight animals, people fighting animals. Sometimes they would flood the Colosseum and have naval. So where is Rome, the city-state? You should go on Google Earth and check it out, but it's easy to find if you look for the Mediterranean is in white, and you'll see what looks like a boot sticking down into the Mediterranean, kicking the island of Sicily, and Rome is right at the knee of that boot. So we'll practice finding Rome together in class, but you should label it on the map on the back of your worksheet. So the Roman monarchy lasts from 8th century to 509 BC, and it was the religious and political center of Rome. It was ruled by aristocrats, which are landowning nobles, wealthy men, who throw out the monarch and begin the Roman Republic. So the Roman Republic is a government ruled by representatives for the people. And the Senatus is the Senate, so they're the body of people that make the laws. And there in the Senate are the patricians, and the patricians are male landowning nobles, so they're wealthy people. The councils are two members of the patrician class that are selected to help give guidance and make decisions. The dictatus is the dictator, and the dictator was only chosen in times of war. And the councils were chosen by vote of the patrician. So the Republic continues from 509 to 44 BC. At the end of the Republic, though, things get messy and violent. For starters, there are slave rebellions led by the slave Spartacus. He's a leader. He's in the movie Gladiator. You might remember him, although the timing is not accurate. The slave revolts are just one symbol of the social unrest that was happening. Many slaves were taking peasants' jobs, and therefore peasants were unemployed and very upset with the landowners, and we have a lot of instability. There are two brothers you read about in your reading, the brothers Gracchus, however. They're politicians who try to bring back fairness and bring back some sanity to Rome. However, it does not work. There's a civil war that brings Julius Caesar to power. And as Caesar's in power as the emperor, or he's a dictator at the time of the Civil War, and his friends in the Senate, his closest friends, decide he is actually gaining too much power, he's too popular, and they fear that he will become an emperor. And this is the Ides of March. So you might have heard, beware, beware the Ides of March. That's in the Shakespearean play, Julius Caesar. And Caesar was at the theater of Pompeii, which you read about in your book, and the jester warned him of this. The Ides of So, after Julius Caesar is assassinated, his grandson, Augustus Caesar, Octavian, steps up to power and becomes the emperor, Augustus Caesar. The name Caesar is not actually Julius Caesar's last name. The name Caesar is the same thing as king or emperor. It's the name given to the emperor of the Roman Empire. And so that is why Octavian renames himself Augustus Caesar. So the first Roman emperor was Augustus Caesar. And the empire starts in 27 BC, but the end date is, again, complicated. We'll get to that. And so the first thing the empire does is it expands, and the Roman emperors practice expansionism. So we have expansive conquest. You'll see the map on the back of your sheet of paper, but almost the entire Mediterranean is conquered by the Romans. And as they conquer, they take slaves. So the Roman Empire has a very large number of slaves. And when you have a large slave population, not a lot of inventing is happening because your slaves are not educated enough to create new things. So we have a stagnant period with not very much invention. And the Roman Empire is a very violent empire. There's a lot of conquering, a lot of wars that go on. The Romans also, the empire starts huge public works, such as aqueducts to carry fresh water, the Colosseums all over famous cities for gladiatorial games, as well as roads to connect the empire, etc. So let me get caught up here. So 27 BC, Caesar is assassinated and Octavian takes over the empire. And again, Octavian takes on the name Augustus Caesar. And he names himself the first emperor of Rome. Again, Caesar is the name for the emperor of the Roman Empire, whoever it may be. It will become the last name. So the changes that Augustus Caesar made was he left the Senate in place, so he didn't change it, but and he added a civil service group to enforce laws. So he basically created a police force. He also allowed self-government to cities and provinces of Rome. So when you look at the Roman map, the Romans conquered France and Spain and North Africa and Egypt and Greece. And as they conquered, Augustus Caesar allowed these provinces to keep their culture, to keep their language, to keep their religion. And as a result, these regions are quite happy with the Roman Empire. All they have to do is pay taxes, and they reap the benefits of protection, and etc. Then we have the Pax Romana, which means Roman peace. It's Latin, so think of how to say peace in Spanish. In French, it's paix, P-A-I-X. In Italian, it's pace. All those are Roman or Latin languages. So the Roman rule at first brings peace, prosperity, order, unity from the Euphrates River in Mesopotamia all the way to the island of Britain. That's the entire Roman Empire. It's actually a little bit bigger than the size of the United States. During this Pax Romana, the Roman soldiers protected roads, protected the seas, there was lots of trade, everyone felt safe, and as a result, ideas and knowledge spread. So it was a lot like the Gupta Golden Age, for example. So at the height of the empire, you see on this map the territory that's conquered. You should flip your worksheet over. And you can label on the back where Rome is. Please look for the Italian boot with the city of Rome at the knee to get an idea, and go ahead and label Rome on that map. But it's right in the center, and on this map it's called Roma in the region of Italia. But here you see all the different regions that were able to keep their language and their culture at the height of the Roman Empire. Moving on to social structures in Rome. Remember that social structures refer to social hierarchy, religion, and gender roles. So timing for Rome. In the 8th century BC, this is just a refresher, there was the Roman kingdom or monarchy led by a king. Then the aristocracy got tired of listening to them, and in 509 they founded the Republic. It's a very small city-state, and it's led by a senate of aristocrats or patricians. And then in 27 BC, after the assassination of Julius Caesar, we have the Roman Empire forms. So social structures in Rome. The citizens consisted of patricians and plebeians. You should use your notes to fill in who these people are. Those who were not citizens included foreigners and slaves. So if you weren't born in the Roman Empire or if you were a slave. Rome is in general tolerant to other religions. This means they're tolerant to Judaism, Zoroastrianism from the Middle East, to paganism, Greek mythology, and we have Roman mythology, which is similar to Greek mythology. That's where it's borrowed from. So on the next slide, you're going to see all the Greek gods and their names in Rome. Also, Rome, especially during the Pax Romana, had many games at the Colosseums around the empire. So these games were meant to keep people happy and distract them from the problems of Rome. This is what is referred to in the movie Gladiator. But for example, emperors who were disliked would have 100 days of games, and so everyone would be entertained rather than misfocused. Here you see Greek mythology. So you have our Greek gods and our Roman gods, and you'll notice that some of the names are the same. So Apollo is in both. Demeter and Ceres are the goddess of grain and of the harvest. Eros and Cupid are the gods of love. You have Hercules, Hera or Juno, Zeus and Jupiter. So Zeus and Jupiter are our key gods married to Hera and Juno. You have Hermes or Mercury, Poseidon and Neptune are the gods of the sea, etc. Think about why the similarity in names might exist and be ready to discuss tomorrow. Make a note on your sheet. So, women in Rome were citizens. However, their role was pretty much the same as in Athens. Even though they were citizens, they couldn't vote. They were at the mercy of their husbands, etc. However, women, again, were the leader of the family. They had considerable influence over how their children were raised. So major trends, you need to fill in the blanks. Who is responsible for agricultural production? Think about what conflicts might arise. What were people's religious beliefs? Be specific about Greek and Roman mythology. We will go over these tomorrow and check in that you had the correct answer. So Cicero says, to be ignorant of what occurred before you were born is to remain always a child. For what is the time of a man except to be connected with that memory of ancient things of an older age? So hopefully you understand from this that Cicero, our Roman thinker, was a huge fan of history, and he thinks if you are ignorant of history, you will always be a child. So hopefully tonight you got one step closer to adulthood. Have a good night and come with these notes completed tomorrow. Feel free to label Sparta and Athens and Carthage on the map of the Mediterranean. See you tomorrow.